make you guys feel welcome. Thank you. I'll have to come here more often. Thank you so much for coming out here to show your support. Thank you, Amy Nelson, and everybody at the Riveter for the great work that you're doing and for being part of this event. Thank you, Shasti. The county chair is the unsung hero of the Democratic Party. I hope everybody really important we pay attention to that. I know I'm here by way of the 2020 presidential campaign, but we got to make sure that we never treat the presidency like it's the only office that matters. There's such important races up and down the ticket. We got to be there for people. State, county, national. Thanks to all of you for sharing this vision enough to want to spend some time together today. We are having a great visit. It is reminding me of the fact that our values are our values in every part of the United States. And I can tell you, I can be in the reddest of the red states and I can be in the bluest of the blue states. And what I'm finding is that there is such energy for reclaiming the idea of values like freedom, security, and democracy, and insisting that they are not conservative values, they are American values, and they have progressive implications when we take them seriously. Shasta said, well, now is our chance to break the spell that has people thinking that the word values automatically points you in a conservative direction, especially given what's going on in Washington right now. We're going to put an end to the spell that has people thinking that freedom is a conservative value. Although we invite conservatives of conscience to come on across, because what's going on right now offends not just our values, but also theirs. If you don't have access to health care. Health care is an American freedom, just as much as freedom for all Americans. While we're on the topic of health care, you're not free in this country as a woman if your access to abortion care is being denied by male bosses. And men have to be up there to stand up for that right alongside the women who are leading the trial. Freedom in this country is freedom to. It's freedom to live a life of your choosing. It's why organized labor is so important, and it's why we stand for workers who stand up for their rights. You're not free if you can't organize. You're also not free if you don't have access to education. That's why we need a Secretary of Education who actually believes in public. Yes, freedom means being able to choose your own spouse instead of a county clerk doing it for you. He's right over there. So we're going to break this spell about freedom. And we're going to also, while we're at it, break the spell that has people thinking that patriotism belongs to a political party.
Right.
Especially now. Especially, but not only, because we have a political party that gladly benefited from the intervention of a hostile foreign adversary in our election. But even if it weren't for that, national national security requires us to think toward the future. 21st century national security is going to be different. And it's not going to respond to 17th century solutions like putting up a wall. How much cybersecurity is at stake when election security is so important? We got to have a whole new vision for national security that includes ending endless wars and not starting ones that can be avoided in the first place. And when it comes to domestic security, things like counterterrorism, that was my specialty when I was deployed. Thanks to everybody here who served. If we want to be keeping America safe, then we got to name and confront violent white nationalism that's claiming lives here at home around the world. Serious about keeping Americans safe, then we have to demand that there be a way to honor the Second Amendment without it becoming a death sentence for thousands of Americans every year. Why we need red flag laws. Why we need to ban weapons of war from being on the streets of our neighborhoods. Real about national security, then the time has come to face climate disruption as the security threat. So we're going to break that idea. But one more thing about patriotism. I'm pretty sure that the flag that was attached to my shoulder when I stepped off that gray-tailed military airplane, I'm pretty sure it stood up for the idea that you can criticize your leaders without anybody telling you to go back where you came from. Indeed, that speaking out against the failures of leadership under that flag is part of how you demonstrate your loyalty to the republic for which it stands. Never mind the idea that freedom belongs to a political party or flag belongs to one political party. By the way, God does not belong to a political party. We know how to do two things at once. We can stand up for the idea that anybody in office or running for office ought to stand up equally for people of any religion and of no religion. And everybody will be treated the same. We can do two things at once. We can do that, and we can also let those who are motivated by religious principles know that they have a choice. When Scripture says that you are to concern yourselves with the poor, and the White House says, let's take away food stamps. When Scripture says, I was a stranger and you welcomed me, and the White House says, send them back and build a wall. When the Word says, you will know me by my works, and suffer the little children unto me, and they're putting children in cages, you have a choice if you are a person of faith, and it is not. Right back at you. A sign out here that says, it's Pete when the introverts show up. Any introverts in that house? See that meme? Introverts of the world unite, but separately. But if ever there was a time, it's now. Because we've got nothing less than the future of our democracy on the line. And that means insisting that our democracy actually function like a democracy, which isn't exactly what's happening right now. We know that it's not a democracy if dollars can outvote people. Not a democracy if districts are drawn to where you got politicians picking their voters out instead of the other way around. That's not democracy. I have been called far out for suggesting that a democracy might even go so far as to pick its leader by just counting up all the votes and giving it to the person who got the most votes. We can deliver freedom, security, democracy in our time, and we're going to have to. One of the reasons I'm running for president is because I believe America's running out of time. People are saying, why now? It's because time's up. And we are going to be held to account for the decisions we make right now. I want to be able to tell my kids and my grandkids that the choices we made in 2020 are the reason that they can live without us looking over our shoulder whether climate is going to make it impossible for our way of life to continue. That the decisions we made right now are the reason that they get to grow up in a world where your race is no predictor of your life expectancy, your health, or your experience with the criminal justice system. And a world where a rising tide really does lift all boats, and if the economy grows, then your wages grow too. That's up to us right now. That's a consequence of the choices that we make right now. And the other thing we got to remember is that the choices we make in this nominating contest are going to decide whether we can actually beat the guy who's in the White House. And we better choose wisely. Because what's not going to work is promising a return to normal. Okay, we only got here because something was very, very wrong with normal. You don't get a guy like this within cheating distance of the Oval Office unless the ground is shifting beneath our feet and there's problems in our economy, our democracy, and our society. That is why we recognize that there is no such thing as an honest politics grounded in the word again. And Democrats should try to come up with our own version of it. It won't work. And our determination to make sure that the future is better than the past. That's what I need you to be part of with me, to spread the word. All right? But not just to ask people to help me, but also to invite people to be part of this process. People who maybe don't feel like they've been heard. People who are wondering whether politics speaks to them at all. And to let them know that they are welcome not only to support this campaign, but to shape it. Because we are going to live the values of this campaign and model the kind of White House and the kind of country that we're trying to build. Can I look to you to help us do that? Well, in the spirit of walking the walk, let me suspend the monologue and let's have a conversation. Please welcome Shasti back to the stage. We're going to do some questions to the crowd.
So this is from Madeline Pratt. Women, Madeline?
All right.
Madeline? All right. Women's reproductive rights are currently under an unprecedented levels of attack. What will you do to ensure a woman's right to choose at both a national and state level?
All right. So you're spot on. This is a level of attack that we haven't seen, certainly in my lifetime. And for as long as I've been alive, the framework we've had is Roe versus Wade. And we need to recognize that no matter how you feel about this issue, where I come from, there's a lot of people who are not pro-choice, they don't view the issue like I am, but no matter how you view it, at the end of the day, this decision is for a woman to make, and a politician telling her what to do is not going to make it better medically or morally. So what does that mean in practice? Well, first of all, it means appointing justices and judges who get it. Secondly, it means federal policies, including making sure that there is adequate resources for low-income people, for whom things like the Hyde Amendment deny access to abortion in practice. Third is to make sure that states do not, and there are ways to do this through legislative action, that states cannot grind down this right when it's been upheld by the courts. And domestically and globally, put an end, and you can do this with the stroke of a pen in the White House, put an end to the gag rule that stops referrals to people. The right thing to do is to give women access to medical advice and services that they need. And to recognize, of course, that there is more to women's health care than reproductive care, and women's health care, top to bottom, is unequal in this country. We've got to fix that, not make it a corner of
This one is from Oliver. Oliver? There's a couple.
Hi.
Yeah. As a trans American, I'd like to know what your administration will do to build up my community and protect us. What specific efforts will you do as president to support me and my transgender, non-conforming siblings?
Step one, we got to have an Equality Act in this country that makes it a matter of federal law that you can't discriminate against people because they're trans or because they're LGBTQ. Another thing that we've got to do is make sure that the whole federal government agency spectrum understands gender identity and respects people for who they are. Right now we got guidance going out to the Department of Health and Human Services that would deny care or make it impossible for gender non-binary and trans Americans to be able to get the same services. Needless to say, a lot of what's going on in education. Look, school is hard enough to get there, just for anyone. We don't need to make it any harder for somebody because they're trans or questioning or gender non-conforming. And in my administration, we won't. Your school will support you, and we will see to it. The other big thing is just representation. And so you can expect to see my administration reflect the amazing diversity of the country that we serve. And honor somebody like you speaking up, because it takes no small amount of courage for you to show up here and speak up for yourself
The last question, although we hope we see you a lot in this next 4 months, right? Okay, this is, I don't know who it's from. Climate change is a radical problem that requires radical solutions. What does that mean for you and President Buttigieg?
All right. So we got to cut emissions fast. Everybody's arguing over whether we can do it by 2030 or 2040. The timeline is not actually being set by politics. It's being set by science, and it's going to come and go with it. So what do we do about it? Well, we've got to have a carbon tax and dividend. We got to do it. By the way, this is not about taking money out of the economy. I propose that we rebate that money right back out to the American people and do it progressively so that most Americans are made more than whole by the fact that we did it, and we still get the climate benefit of having the prices actually reflect the climate consequences of things we buy. Another thing we got to do is massively increase the amount of federal R&D that goes into not just renewable energy, but energy storage and carbon storage. We got to do all of that at once, and we should do it to levels that we just celebrated the moon landing. It should be at a level that's comparable to the moon landing or the Manhattan Project, but this time it's for making the Earth a better place, and we can do that right here at home. The answers are coming from communities. So, in addition to rejoining Paris, I'm proposing we have a Pittsburgh summit that gets cities and states together and help cities and states that are trying to do the right thing. There's a whole bunch of other stuff we should do with rural America, with soil management. I mean, every part of the American spectrum needs to be part of the solution. It's not just cities. The deeper idea behind this, and one of the reasons why a climate corps is part of my proposal for a national service plan to create 1 million service opportunities. Part of the reason for that is America needs a national project. That's another thing I was thinking about when we saw the movie, that anniversary. We do better when we have a project that brings us together. And unlike the Cold War or World War II, we finally have a national project available to us that doesn't involve fighting other people.
Let's dig down. Let's see. Okay. If you weren't a politician, what would you be and why? Taking a long time, just playing all along.
Something that involves teacher, that's way too hard. If I were more creative, I'd be a novelist. I did write a book. I'm pretty proud of it. But yeah, I always believe in going where you can make yourself useful, right? So you can. That is service for sure. That's why I was in the military. It's why I serve at home, and as long as I have a chance to make myself useful, maybe it'll be as a stay-at-home dad. I don't know. It just depends where I am. To be president with your help. Unbelievably warm welcome. This definitely makes me want to come back. So, the sense of hope and faith that we can enter this political process, warped as it is, dark as this moment is in our country, and build something good. Running for office is an act of hope. You do it because you think it'll do some good. And so is helping somebody run for office. So is supporting somebody, donating to somebody, volunteering for somebody, voting for somebody. You do it because you believe we can get in there and we get our hands on the pulleys and levers of our government, and if they're not working, we redesign them, and we do whatever it takes to make them work for us. And with your help, we're going to make that happen. So can I look to you to make that a possibility?